We met that dude, Duke the Jeweler, the night before. We was gambling. The next day, dude followed us to the concert. When we left out the concert, we under the garage. Dude went to his car by himself and walked down to the parking lot.
Over Duke. The jeweler set up. The streets are on fire again. And now J. Prince Sr. is clapping back. For years, everybody pinned the blame on Boosie, saying he lined Duke up. But Boosie's done keeping quiet. He's calling names, throwing shots, and shifting the spotlight straight onto mob ties. The internet is spinning wild. The feds are sniffing around. But the real question is, who was really pulling the strings that night? Let's rewind. Back in November 2022, 29-year-old Duke the jeweler got gunned down in what was labeled a robbery right after he hit Boosie's concert in Houston, Texas. Instantly, the whispers started flying. People claiming Boosie either called the play or knew exactly who did it. The word in the streets was the two men who ambushed Duke weren't random jack boys. They were family tied directly to Boosie. That story caught fire and ran for months while Boosie stayed silent, taking all the heat.
Man, Lord.
The blogs ate it up, the streets believed it, and the spotlight stayed locked on him. But now things are spinning back, and the eyes are shifting this time straight toward J. Prince Jr., the son of Houston's so-called hip-hop godfather, who is being looked at differently now. Because while Boosie got dragged, the one with real power stayed quiet, clean, and untouched. But here's the kicker. The details don't just look suspicious, they look staged, like the whole thing was planted from the jump. Boosie was never the kingpin. He was set up to be the fall guy, allegedly. Why was Boosie the easy target? Because he was right there that night. He performed, allegedly invited Duke, and whispers claimed Duke's Louis Vuitton bag ended up in Boosie's house. But none of that screams motive. It just shows Boosie was close, not complicit. And that's what made him the perfect scapegoat. The fall guy is always the one already buried in drama. And Boosie had plenty of baggage. Gun cases, the Terry Boy trial, his name still tied to charges he beat years back. He was guilty in the court of public opinion before the case even started. All it took was the right story and suddenly all eyes were on him. But now the script is flipping. Boosie's done staying quiet and he's putting names on it. Straight up calling out J. Prince Jr. He's saying clear as day, "Y'all tried to line me up." He even claimed he didn't really know Duke like that. They crossed paths at a dice game and the very next day Duke popped up at his concert solo. Just hours later, Duke was gone in a parking lot hit. Nah, that don't sit right. Boosie's labeling it exactly what it looks like, a setup. And now the streets are listening differently because Duke didn't get dropped in Baton Rouge, Boosie's turf. He was gunned down in Houston. And we all know who really runs Houston.
Any real dude that's ever really been in LA, he checked in. Any real dude that's ever been in Atlanta, he checked in. If you moving and you getting money, you gonna check in because you need to know the right places to be and places not to be. That's a businessman.
J. Prince Jr. Now even Houston locals are jumping online screaming Boosie didn't do that. They're saying straight up, this ain't his city. One user wrote, "If you're from Houston town, you know what happened. Boosie has nothing to do with it at all." Another fan broke it down plain. Why would Boosie set up a robbery in a city he don't even run? That would be crazy, bold, and flat out disrespectful. Folks are heated, calling out how quick people are to throw blame with no proof. And it didn't stop there. Another user put the spotlight exactly where they think it belongs, firing directly at J. Prince Jr. Boosie had nothing to do with that man's death. Look at J. Prince Jr. and don't forget who was sitting at that dice table, too. J. Prince Jr. himself. That's the same dude people say has been running Houston's infamous check-in culture with an iron grip. Sources claim if you're an artist, rapper, influencer, whatever, you don't pull up in H-Town without tapping in with the princes. And here's the twisted part. Duke checked in and still ended up smoked. That's not protection. That's predatory. Because the check-in system ain't about safety, it's about control and power. And Duke ain't the only one. Takeoff checked in, too. and still got lined up. Out west, Big U's name gets thrown around with the same game, allegedly making rappers check in just to stay safe. But if they don't, they get lined up. Even rappers like PNB Rock allegedly checked in and still ended up targets. Schoolboy Q even said it himself. At best, rappers are just getting robbed by the same folks they checked in with. That ain't protection. It's extortion with a handshake and a fake smile. The Duke the Jeweler case has been looking shady from the jump. And the whispers only got louder when folks realized that Dice Game wasn't just rigged, it was deadly.
Man, that's your favorite thing to do. Check in with somebody that's gonna rob your stupid ass.
Wow.
Yo, you think that guy, the guy that you don't know in California got your back?
Boosie, he was never the mastermind. He was the bait. And that's when the internet really flipped, because suddenly the picture got a whole lot darker. Enter Wack 100. Loud, raw, and unfiltered like always. He didn't sugarcoat a thing. Wack flat out said the Dice Game was a setup. According to him, Duke wasn't robbed. He was lined up. And who lined him up? Wack pointed the finger directly at J Prince Jr.'s crew, naming Lil Cam and that tight circle running the dice table where the house always wins unless somebody messes up. And that night Duke messed up. Wack claimed Duke started hitting dice he wasn't supposed to hit. And that tore the whole operation apart. When you disrupt a rigged system run on ego, money, and power, somebody pays the price. And Wack said Duke paid with his life. But Wack didn't stop there. He accused J Prince of brainwashing folks for decades, pretending to be the protector while secretly pulling the strings in the shadows.
Hey, Prince, over the years, the decades of doing whatever he's doing, he's been having a way of brainwashing people.
Oh, yeah?
To thinking he's doing one thing when he really up to a next.
Heavy words. But he wasn't the only one throwing heat. Charleston White came in swinging too. He said Duke's death hit different. Not just because Duke was talented, but because it should have been prevented. Charleston blasted mob ties directly, saying they created an environment in Houston that wasn't just unsafe, it was dangerous by design. It's deadly out here. Artists think checking in will keep them safe, but instead, they get thrown into loaded games surrounded by sharks. Charleston White said it straight. Duke didn't get protected. He got played. He checked in with the wrong crew and paid the price. Not because he disrespected anyone, but because he was naive. And Charleston didn't just stop at Duke. He went off on the whole industry, calling the checking game what it really is, extortion in disguise. A twisted code where silence means survival.
Industry, these street homie, that's projecting these rules and then coming here playing like they admirable men with street rules and street exit. Nah, homie, them look was set up that night.
He even said Duke's death wasn't random. It was ritual. And now the silence is finally cracking wide open. Even 50 Cent threw gas on the fire. He didn't spell it out, but what he posted was enough to make everybody side-eye the situation. Cryptic clips, captions hinting at hidden truths, and subtle support for Boosie. And then things went nuclear with the Finesse 2 times drama. Word on the street was J Prince Jr. allegedly got Finesse's girl pregnant behind his back, and FNG no love edit out for everyone to hear. And here's the wild part. J Prince Jr. didn't say a word. No denial, no shutdown, nothing. And when silence screams louder than words, people took that as guilt. Suddenly, Finesse, who once shouted out, "Mob ties like family," won't even say their name anymore. He ghosted them completely. What's left? Cold distance and awkward tension where loyalty used to live. Now fans are connecting the dots. Takeoff's murder. Boosie's public call-out. Finesse's fallout. And the same name keeps popping up in every headline. J Prince Jr. The internet is in meltdown right now because silence ain't holding anymore. The empire built on fear is starting to crack. One user blasted online, J Prince has set up so many people and had several folks knocked off. Another didn't hold back either, writing, J Prince took him out, not Boosie. But here's the part people forget. Duke the Jeweler wasn't just some dude with ice.
Junior was the father, and after your mom did her due diligence, what was your thought?
I think that this girl that had the baby, I think she used to work around Junior.
So I believe bro bumped into her around Junior, you know what I'm saying?
He was a self-made king straight out of Chicago. No industry cosigns, no label backing him, just raw hustle and pure talent. He started in the early 2000s sketching designs in a tiny studio, flipping nothing into something legendary. And soon enough, his one-of-one pieces started hitting the biggest stages. His custom work touched Rihanna, King Von, 50 Cent, and even Boosie. Duke's style wasn't just flashy, it was timeless. His designs weren't loud, they were legacy. And that's exactly what made him dangerous in the eyes of some. Because when your stock rises too fast in this game, somebody always feels threatened. Duke didn't just stumble into the wrong place. He walked into a lion's den, dripping in gold, trusting faces that didn't deserve it, shaking hands that were already plotting. That night wasn't random. It was a setup wrapped in smiles, and Duke walked straight into the wrong room. That room was no ordinary spot. It was a high-stakes dice game hosted by none other than J. Prince Jr. Sources say he cleaned up that night, stacking over $100,000 on the table. But that win might have sealed Duke's fate, because right after he was robbed, stripped of his jewelry, his cash, even his phone, before being shot multiple times. Not once, not twice, multiple times. Like somebody wanted to make sure he was gone for good. The industry still hasn't recovered. Duke's death hit different. This wasn't some sloppy robbery gone wrong. It looked like a well-planned execution. Cold, deliberate, and personal. Meanwhile, Boosie is still trying to clear his name, telling anyone who will listen that he had nothing to do with it.
Man, Lord.
When footage surfaced showing Boosie reacting to Duke's death, he looked shattered, stumbling over his words, visibly broken, like he truly never saw it coming. And maybe, just maybe, he didn't. But the mess didn't stop there. J. Prince Sr. started firing back. Boosie flipped the script, accusing him and his circle of being the ones setting people up. But the streets ain't buying the deflection, because the same city saw another giant fall, Takeoff. And the coroner confirmed he was hit multiple times, head and torso. That don't sound like no stray bullet accident like investigators tried to claim. That sounds planned. Now J. Prince Sr. is clapping back at WAC 100 for backing Boosie's claims, calling him a clown, calling him loud. But the streets, they're saying he's just making noise to dodge the real heat closing in. The pattern is impossible to ignore. Two major names, Duke the Jeweler and Takeoff, both gone in Houston, both tied to dice games and both linked to the same circle. The streets are screaming it out loud. This ain't coincidence. This is a system. And at the center of every whisper sits J. Prince Jr., shielded by the legacy of his father, but dragged by the rumors that just won't die. People online are pointing out the same thing over and over. When artists check in, they don't walk out safer. They walk out marked. Duke checked in. Takeoff checked in. And both ended up never leaving Houston alive.
To his car or something, some dude tried to rob him. Some dudes tried to rob him. I had just met dude yesterday. We was in a garage. He must have walked outside to the parking lot. We was in a garage. We heard this.
That's not protection. That's a death trap dressed up like hospitality. And now WAC 100, Charleston White, and even Boosie are pulling the covers back on a culture that's been running unchecked for years. WAC's calling it a setup. Charleston's calling it extortion. And Boosie's flat out saying he was lined up. That's three voices with nothing in common except their smoke for mob ties. Meanwhile, J. Prince Sr. is moving like his untouchable, brushing off accusations, throwing shade at anyone who dares to speak his name. But fans aren't fooled anymore. The whispers are turning into shouts, the rumors into full-blown accusations. And with the feds already digging, the walls around the Prince Empire are starting to shake. Now everybody's asking the same question. If this many people keep pointing fingers, how long before the truth finally blows wide open? Because now it's not just street gossip. The feds are circling. Quiet investigations, sealed files, and whispers of federal eyes tracking mob ties' every move.
think about him, here's a clown. Like, I love the hip-hop culture. I'm in love with the hip-hop culture. Blood, sweat, and tears went in my movement for the hip-hop.
Word on the block is they've been digging into Duke's case, Takeoff's murder, and even old unsolved hits that trace back to the same Houston circle. That's not rumor. That's pressure building in real time, and fans online are piecing it together like detectives. One viral thread said, "Every time somebody checks in with mob ties, something happens. Duke, Takeoff, even smaller names we don't talk about. The list too long for it to be coincidence." Another wrote, "It's looking like the feds waiting for the right time to snatch the princes up." Meanwhile, Jay Prince Sr. is still moving heavy, popping up in interviews, talking like the godfather of Houston, trying to protect the family brand. But the louder he talks, the more people side-eye the silence from Jay Prince Jr. because while the father plays defense, the son stays quiet. And in his game, silence can feel like confession. Boosie's latest moves only pour gas on it. He's doubling down on clearing his name, pointing harder at mob ties, and daring people to believe him. The energy shifted where before Boosie was the easy target. Now the spotlight is burning on the princes, and the question lingers like smoke. If the empire built on fear is really cracking, who's going to be the first one to fall when the hammer finally drops? This ain't just about Boosie or Duke. It's bigger than that. This is about a whole system built on fear, silence, and fake protection dressed up as respect. It's about how power gets abused when artists are forced to check in just to walk through a city they don't even control. It's about how even self-made bosses like Duke, who built everything from scratch with sweat, grind, and raw talent, still ain't safe once they step into the wrong room. And Duke's death didn't just leave a hole in the jewelry game. It cracked something much deeper. It pulled back the curtain and showed how dirty this game really is. Boosie says he was the bait. Finesse 2 times fell back. Takeoff checked in and still lost his life. And now Jay Prince Sr. looks like he's scrambling to hold it all together while the walls close in. But here's the chilling part. If this is only the beginning, then who's next to speak out or vanish without a trace? Make sure you smash that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, share this with the squad, and of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. See you on the next.